Welcome back. All right, so I want to talk about the Bruins today as last night they reached 30 wins. And they reached 30 wins 38 games into the season. They are the first team to do so since the 1944-45 Montreal Canadiens. They're 7-0-3 in their last 10. The only team that got there faster to 30 wins would be the Boston Bruins of 1929-1930. So I wanted to take a look at that because I see that and I'm like, all right, so how did their seasons end? Well, for the 44-45 Canadiens, it was a 50-game season. They ended up 38-8-4, not out of line with the kind of record that Boston's put up so far at 34-4. In the first round, they lost against the Maple Leafs. So there were only 2 rounds to the playoffs at that stage in the NHL's history, and the Canadiens went out in the first round. The 1929-1930 Boston Bruins, it was a 44-game season. They ended up 38-5-1, and they lost in the Stanley Cup final against the Montreal Canadiens. So this is why I say, like, there's optimism and you feel good about a team when they're doing this well, but you have to be realistic that it's a 32 team league we're currently in. Back then it was a much smaller league, and yet still Montreal and Boston, who would have won President's trophies those years, didn't win the Stanley Cup. So this year, 38 games, 34-4 record. We have no idea where Boston's going to go when we get to playoff time. We just know they're going to be there, right? They're currently 26 games above 500. If they played 500 hockey from here, they end up with 108 points. So absolutely ridiculous numbers. Their power play is currently fourth in the NHL at 27.54%. Their penalty kill is first in the NHL at 85.19%. So their penalty kill, their power play, both of them helping the Boston Bruins. And it really is hard to find a weakness with this team. So currently, with Jake DeBrusk on the injured list, they've reunited I don't like calling it the perfection line, but that's what they're known as, where you got Marchand, Bergeron, and Pastrnak. Now, this line has been excellent for years. Pastrnak, of course, are currently sitting with 27 goals, 25 assists, 52 points. Pulled off the check line to put him up on the top line. Bergeron, 15 goals, 15 assists, 30 points. Offensively, down a little bit for Bergeron, but he's so good defensively, it doesn't matter. Marchand, 11 goals, 22 assists, 33 points. He's around a point per game since he returned, and that's right around where you expect him to be. Maybe you want a few more goals from Marchand, but really there's no complaining from most Bruins fans that I've seen. Then you got the second line. Hall steps into the spot that DeBrusk was, which just shows, like, this lineup's ridiculous. Well, not where DeBrusk was, where Pastrnak was. So Hall, 13 goals, 15 assists, 28 points, has been excellent. You've got Krejci down the middle, 10 goals, 18 assists, 28 points. I mean, a 60-plus point season from Krejci is ridiculous, too. Zacha, 5 goals, 18 assists, 23 points. I think he's done well so far. I think both Zacha and Haula needed the trades, or the trade that was made where they switched spots. I think Haula's been good for New Jersey, and I think Zacha's been good for Boston, and that's as far as that goes. But then you get into the depth part. You've got Nick Foligno, who, of course, cleared waivers before the season started. 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points. I'd also say that if we had him on waivers right now, that I think he'd still clear because of his cap hit, and teams just don't have the space to pick him up. Charlie Coyle, 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points. He's had a good year. And Trent Frederick last night set a career high in goals with his ninth to go with 7 assists for 16 points. Trent Frederick may never become what you would typically think of as a first rounder, but he's tough and he's able to put the puck in the net. He's a little bit everything. He really is, I think, as close to a power forward as the Bruins have. Just looking at the lineup and going, yeah, that's basically it. DeBrusk has that potential, but the physicality isn't where you'd expect with the last name DeBrusk. And then on the fourth line, you've got Greer, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Most of those points were scored early in the season, but Greer's game isn't about points. Nosek, 3 goals, 4 assists from him as well. Nosek, good fourth line center. And Craig Smith, since being recalled, has been decent. He has a goal and 3 assists so far this season in the games he's played with Boston. Of course, he cleared waivers to go down to the minors and is likely ending up back in the minors once DeBrusk comes back. But for Smith, it's been a rough season, but I haven't heard any complaints from him necessarily. Now, if you look at the blue line, Grzelcyk, a goal and 9 assists for 10 points for him. Solid defensive defenseman there. You got Charlie McAvoy, good 200-foot defenseman, 2 goals, 19 assists. 21 points for him since returning from injury. Hampus Lindholm's scoring has dropped off. He has 4 goals, 23 assists, 27 points. But if I had told any Bruins fan before the season started that Lindholm would get more than 50 points, I think you would have been happy with that. So he's on pace for maybe 55, maybe 60 points if he gets another hot streak in there. Brandon Carlo, a goal, 6 assists for 7 points from him, one of the better defensive defensemen in the league. Forbert's been very good, 2 goals, 5 assists. And Clifton, 3 goals, 9 assists, 12 points for Clifton. He is one of the better kept secrets on the blue line in the NHL. So there isn't really a weakness to point out here. And I just want to say I really think that Don Sweeney deserves a lot of credit for the fact that there aren't weaknesses with this lineup as it's constituted. That includes in net. Ullmark, 21-1-1, 939 save percentage. Those numbers are in fact ridiculous. And over their last 10, he's 4-0-1 with a 940 save percentage. Then you got Swayman, 8-3-3 with a 900 save percentage. But over their last 10, he's 3-0-2 with a 918 save percentage. So when I talk about Swayman and defending him, I have my reasons. Swayman, I think, has had a good season. He's a backup goaltender. And I think when your biggest complaint is your backup goaltender, you have a pretty darn good team. And again, it would not be a complaint from me. I've just seen that a lot. So with Boston right now, they're cruising, right? They're number 2 in goals for. Buffalo's currently number 1. Think about it. Goals for per game. Buffalo leads the league. It's an odd world we live in. They're number 1 in goals against per game at 2.16. Winnipeg is second at 2.55. So they are easily in front there. That can change. A few bad games and that can change. But they're doing really well. And it doesn't matter which period of hockey you're looking at. Boston's best. 32 goals for, 23 goals against in the first period. And I mean best is in overall. And there's just not much of a weakness here. The first period's the closest you get, where the differential's 9. Technically overtime, but overtime's a little different. Second period, they've outscored their opposition 51-35, and in the third, they just keep getting better. 57-23 in the third period. Just remarkable to watch how this team comes back. And then in overtime, they've outscored the opposition 3-1. So really, really strong game for them overall, which tells you that 3 losses are in shootouts. This could be even better than what it is if their shootout luck had been a little better. Now, President's Trophy wins need to be brought up, because this would be the 4th time, if Boston does end up going wire to wire and they finish first overall, the 4th time since the President's Trophy became a thing that Boston would have won it. 1990 was the first time they won it. They had 101 points that year. There was no other team above 100 points. They lost the Stanley Cup final against the Edmonton Oilers. That was the one cup the Oilers won after Gretzky left, and really made Messier a focal point in the NHL overall. Because up until then, there had been some discussion of, well, can they win without Gretzky? Yeah, Messier's pretty good. 2014, they won the President's Trophy with 117 points. They lost in the second round against Montreal. 2020, they had 100 points, won the President's Trophy. The pause caused that season to be shortened, and they lost in the second round against Tampa Bay. So I'm not delusional in saying that, oh well, no, they're going to win. This is it. This is their year. I'm not crazy. I know that if your team wins the President's Trophy, and it doesn't matter how many wins they have, Tampa Bay, they can still end up being out early in the playoffs. So I'm really excited about this. I want to see how far it goes. Last night was the first night I've listened to Shipping Up to Boston when they won, and I felt like that was suitable since they're really on the verge of history here. Now, when you look at their numbers, what makes it even scarier is if they're leading after 1, they're undefeated, 17-0-0. Leading after 2, they're 19-0-1. So if they're leading after the first period, you can kind of turn it off if you want to. If they're trailing after 1, they're 6-2-1. So that's a pretty good record. If they're trailing after 2, they're 3-3-3. So they're still a 500 team, NHL 500, yes, but if they're trailing after 2 periods, they've still got a good chance of coming back. If they outshoot the opposition, they're 18-3-4. If they're outshot by the opposition, they're 12-1. So by points percentage, they're better when they get outshot when they outshoot the other team. Not that there's really a huge difference between the two. And they've had no games, none, where the shots have been even, which is weird because it feels like there's a lot of games where the shots are relatively even. Now, if they score first, they're 19-0-2. So have not lost in regulation if they score first. If they're trailing first, they're 11-4-2. So if they're trailing first, don't worry about it. They're probably still going to come back and win, which has to be really frustrating for both the opposition and for fans that don't like Boston, where you're like, good, they're down 1-0. Good, it's about time. And I'm sure there will be people who say, well, since Shanna's done a video on it, that's going to be the end of it. But this is technically the second video I've done where I've talked about Boston. I talked about their home winning streak. They still have a home winning streak going on, at least in terms of undefeated. In regulation, that's 22 games and counting. So, yeah, the jinx didn't work on them. Now, if they're in a one-goal game, that's where their record isn't as great. 8-2-4 if a game is decided by one goal. So the real key with Boston seems to be to keep them close, stay within striking distance, and you've got a chance, which makes a lot of sense. If it's a 2-goal difference, they're 10-1. So very good if there's a 2-goal difference. And if it's 3 or more, they're 12-1. So if it's a free-flowing game, if there's a lot of offense in it, odds are Boston's going to win that game. And again, it doesn't matter if they score first or not. Doesn't seem to make a big difference either way. It is hard to find a weakness with this team. You would think with them not having a regulation loss at home that means their road record might not be very good. No, their road record's pretty good. And the win last night in LA just adds to that. This is a team that is, I think, capable of winning a Stanley Cup. With the way they've been playing. I do expect them to go through tough spots here and there before the end of the season. I don't expect them to end up with 62 or more wins, again, pointing back to Tampa in 2019. But, Bergeron came out and said there's something special with this team. I can't argue with Bergeron. It's been 20 years since the team drafted him. If he says something special with this team, I'm going to agree with him. I'm going to say, all right, that's fine. But when they get my hopes up and then they dash them eventually, I'll try to act surprised. That does seem to be the history with Boston, again, pointing back to the 3 President's Trophies, especially 1990. I really believe that was the year, and then it didn't happen. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. And one other question, how far can Boston take this? How good can their record be? And then it becomes a matter of which team would beat them in the playoffs. I would still be nervous about them against Tampa Bay in the playoffs. I still don't know that in a 7-game series, they would match up really well with Tampa. But let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.